Hello, my name is Yvonne Michalik and I would like to talk about the Indonesian women filmmakers and the history in Indonesia, the film history in Indonesia, because there is so much more to do. The role played by women in the development of Indonesian cinema has to date only been described in a very rudimentary way, but Indonesian has many female writers and numerous women work as directors, producers, and cinematographers in its film history. Therefore, I would like to give a brief overview about the female Indonesian filmmakers from the beginning of the film to the present. Indonesian film history began in the 90s when traveling projections screened imported films in the former colony of the Dutch East Indies. Since then, Indonesian film history has been characterized by the ups and downs of good time and bad, with many films being made during some periods and none at all during others. From the 1915 onwards, female filmmakers began to play a role in the country's film culture. Ratna Asmara, the first female Indonesian filmmaker, discovered the art of directing during the era of guided democracy under Sukarno. Ratna Asmara was originally a theater and then a film actress. Her directorial debut was Sedap Malam in 1950 for Jamaluddin Malik Film Company, which makes her the first female film director in Indonesian history. Two other films followed, Musim Bunga di Sela Bintana in 1951 and Dr. Samsi in 1952. In 1953, Ratna Asmara established Ratna Films, but her company produced only one film, Nelayan, in 1953, and then it was rebranded as Asmara Films, for whom she directed Dewi dan Pemilihan Umum in 1954. Ratna Asmara died in 1981. Unfortunately, by the time of her death, her work had been largely forgotten. It is only more recently that her films have found some critical acclaim by Krishna Sen and Kristianto. But also during the Sukarno presidency, another woman, Sofia Valdi, known by the pseudonym of Sofia Vidi, started to make films as a director. Sofia Vidi was also already well known in the Indonesian film industry, having been discovered in her role in the film Air Mata Mengalir to Citarum in 1948 and being celebrated from then on and as a successful actress. However, it was only 12 years later that she directed her first film, Badai Selatan, in 1960. In the same year, Sofia Vidi was also a manager of Ibu Kota Film Company. Her second film was Muara Condet in 1970, which she directed also for the same company. Alongside these two pioneers, Ratna Asmara and Sofia Valdi, or Sofia Vidi, two other women has to be mentioned at the first of women Indonesian filmmakers. Chitra Devi, full name Padma Dewi Citrohadi Kusumo, and Ida Farida. But let's talk first about Chitra Devi. Like Ratna Asmara and Sofia Vidi, also Chitra Devi initially started as an actress and in 1955 became a star of Indonesian cinema. She made her directorial debut in 1971 with the film Pengungkap Kuda Dari Cimanda and then directed two more, Bercinta Dalam Gelap and Dara Dara. However, her films were judged to be sexually offensive, superficial, and neither commercially nor artistically valuable. Also, The films of Ida Farida are considered commercial, but the analytical depth of the screenplays and the artistic quality have been positively assessed. This may be due to the fact that Ida Farida had an excellent teacher in Sofia VD. Ida Farida's cinematic career began with her work on the screenplay for Melawan Badai, directed by Sofia VD. This led to further collaboration between the two on the documentary film Tanah Harapan and the feature Jangan Menangis Mama. Ida Farida had her first directing experiences with Guruku Cantik sekali in 1979, and after that alternated between work as a scriptwriter and director. She directed Tak Ingin Sendiri in 1985 and Suara Kekasih in 1989. She also worked in Malaysia and in 1994 moved into television, where she mainly wrote and or directed Cinetron movies. These are feature films for television. Also, these women, Ratna Asmara, Sofia VD, Chitra Devi and Ida Farida, marked the beginning of the history of female filmmaker in Indonesia. The film have not yet been fully explored as historical documents. Unfortunately, the films of all four are also no longer available in the distribution market. Also, they can be viewed upon request at Cinema Indonesia, the Indonesian Film Archive in Jakarta. Interestingly, three of these filmmakers shared two common characteristics. Alongside the fact that Ratna Asmara, Sofia VD and Chitra Devi had husbands who worked in the film industry and supported them in the decision to become filmmakers, they were also well-known actresses before they started working as directors. This was something that changed, however, with the arrival of Ida Farida, who began working as scriptwriter before making her directing debut in 1979. Later, from 1994 onward, as I have already said, Farida moved into television, where she mainly wrote and directed Cinetron movies. Ida Farida's migration into television reflects a common pattern among Indonesian filmmakers of the 1980s and 1990s. A period marked by a decline in local film production. Politics under Suharto focused upon modernization and economic growth, and this led to the relaxation of censorship regulations for imported films. The Indonesian market was flooded with commercial films, mostly from abroad. Alongside this, film distribution in the country was dominated by the American cinema group 21 with its big Cineplex buildings, which mainly screened important films. The audience voted with their feet, generally preferring the air-conditioned Cineplex cinemas. The lack of home film production led an increasing number of Indonesian filmmakers to move into television, where with the Cinetron movies they could earn a better living. Thus, the interaction between media politics, circumstances of distribution, audience expectation, and existential decision of the filmmaker in the 90s meant that only very few Indonesian films were produced for the cinema during this time. Nevertheless, this low point of Indonesian film industry propagated a fight back by the filmmakers, and they were dissatisfied by the preventing conditions during the Suharto era, and by the close of the 90s, the lethargy came at an end. There followed a period of euphoria which grew particularly out of the younger generation of filmmakers. Unhappy with the situation in the countries, they began to take the initiative and produce cinema film again. The film Cul-de-sac in 1997 can be recognized as a landmark which helped initiate the recovery of Indonesian film industry. The film was directed by 4 young filmmakers, Riri Risa, Mira Lesmana, Nan Trivieni Achnas, and Rizal Montavani. Cul-de-sac has a symbolical political power marked the transition from the Suharto dictatorship to democracy. The success of Cul-de-sac, coupled with the fall of Suharto regime, encouraged filmmakers to organize themselves anew. For example, countless festivals sprang up in the post-Suharto area. This period also saw the second flowering of women filmmakers in Indonesia. Mira Lesmana, one of Cul-de-sac's 4 directors, is now considered to be the country's most important female producers. Her film also not only are of a high artistic quality, but also enjoy commercial success. I will not give you now all the films Mira Lesmana just made. You can read it in my paper. And go on with another women filmmaker, Nan Trivieni Achnas. She has likewise continued to be productive after Cul-de-sac, directing more films like Pasir Berpisik, The Flag, and more. Nowadays, Mira Lesmana is still very active as producer, while Nan Trivieni Achnas has almost stopped to make films, which is a pity because her films are brilliant. At the time of her productivity, Nan Achnas has also collaborated with another important female filmmaker in the Indonesian film industry, the producer Shanti Harmain. She produced her prize-winning film Pasir Berpisik of Nan Trivieni Achnas and the photographer. Harmain's filmography also includes Rainmaker, Banju Biru, and a lot of more films, which you can also read in my paper. This generation of filmmakers from the 1990s include also another women, Budi Abioga. Budi Abioga produced 2 films during this time of the director Gari Nugroho, Cinta Dalam Sepotong Roti and Surat Untuk Bidadari. Both films went on to become a success in Indonesia and internationally, and Abioga has subsequently produced further films with various directors today. And there is another filmmaker which has to be mentioned because she produced a lot of important films. Indonesian Hakim, one of Indonesia's most famous actresses at this time, also discovered the art of producing films. Her production includes films from Gari Nugroho as well those of Nan Trivieni Achnas. Another important director and producer has to be mentioned here too. At the beginning of the year 2000, Nia Dinata entered the ring as another highly productive Indonesian filmmaker. She has directed and produced many films. Her directing and producing debut started Nia Dinata in Dilakukan in 2001. She became famous with her film Arisan in 2003, Berbagi Suami in 2006, Perempuan Punya Cerita in 2007, and made a lot of other films, which you can also read in my text. The steady increase in women working as directors and producers, especially since the 90s, clearly demonstrate the important social position women had in Indonesia and still have today. Nowadays, Indonesia has many women filmmakers. To name but a few directors: Marianne Rumantir, Sekar Ayu Asmara, Upi Avianta, Ucu Agustin, Nuke Rahmat, Lasja Fauzia, Samaria Simanjuntak, Ratna Sarompet, Dian Sasmita, Viva Vesti, Lola Amaria, Jenar Mesa Ayu, Muli Surya, Raya Makarin, Rahmanya, Arunita, Wendy Widasare, Dewi Umaya, Silati Timoti, Ariani Dharmawan, Yuli Andari, Murdi Kaningtias, Cassandra Masardi, Lisabona Rahman, Andi Asi, and Camila Andili, and a lot of more. The number is increasing, so the emergence of an increasing number of female film directors as well as producers is one significant aspect of the post-New Order Indonesian cinema. However, what kind of films are made by women? Do they differ from those made by their male colleagues? Can this question even be answered in a general way? Probably not. The huge number of women filmmakers in Indonesia indicates that the world of female films is a heterogeneous one. Nevertheless, it can be demonstrated that more women-specific issues are addressed more frequently by the Indonesian filmmakers, who are increasingly active in the industry. Particularly taboo subjects such as rape, domestic violence, family prostitution, and restriction against women are addressed directly as problems of the Indonesian society. These are subjects and questions which are rarely discussed or highlighted by the male filmmakers' colleagues. In this respect, female filmmakers do more than their male counterparts cinematically to stimulate a public discourse which focused upon the rights of women and which fight for a fairer and more equal society. It can be summarized that alongside their male counterparts, female filmmakers have played an important role in the history of the country's film, but their impact is still being explored at only the most basic level. As Felicia Hux Freeland stated already 2011, there is still much work needed. This can be stated even 9 years later. We still don't have a good overview about this vivid women filmmaker culture in Indonesia in the year 2020. So there is so much more to do. Thank you. Here I would like to recommend also a book of mine with a lot of contributions of Indonesian and Australian and American scientists, Indonesian women filmmakers. So I hope you like my presentation, and if you have questions, please don't hesitate, and goodbye.